The charts had become a maze of meaningless lines, blurring together as Ben traced their supposed position for the 100th time. 3 days since the freighter disappeared. Or was it 4? The constant rain made time elastic, stretching minutes into hours while compressed into a gray smear of consciousness. "You're looking at the same spot again," Mark said from his perch by the radio. His voice carried an edge Ben hadn't noticed before, something between concern and accusation. "You've been circling that coordinate for 20 minutes. Ben blinked, realizing his finger had worn a small depression on the paper. His naval training felt distant now, like something he'd read about rather than lived. "The current should have carried us southeast, but the compass..." He trailed off, unwilling to voice what they both knew. The instruments had been acting erratically since the storm began. A thud from above made them both stiffen. Not the sharp crack of waves against the hull, but something deliberate. Something landed. Mark was already moving toward the deck hatch, tension visible in every line of his body. "We need to check it. Could be supplies." The desperation in his voice reflected their dwindling rations, but something in Ben's gut twisted at the eagerness in his friend's movements. The package sat dead center on the deck, as if placed there. No debris trail, no splash marks around it, just a brown box perfectly positioned, its sodden surface reflecting their flashlight beams like wet skin. "Don't," Ben said, but Mark was already reaching for it. The rope came away too easily, disintegrating at his touch. Inside lay a porcelain doll, its antiquated dress pristine despite the waterlogged box. A spark of recognition flickered in Ben's mind. Something about the doll's features seemed familiar, like a face glimpsed in a fever dream. Mark lifted it with reverence. "It's dry," he whispered. "How is it dry?" Ben's focus caught on Mark's hands. They were trembling, but not from cold. There was something hungry in his friend's gaze as he cradled the doll. "We should document where we found it," Ben said carefully, "for the report." Mark didn't look up. "What coordinates would you put? The ones you've been staring at or the real ones?" There was a smile in his voice that didn't reach his eyes. "Do you even know which is anymore?" The manifest lay forgotten on the deck, its ink running in the rain. Ben caught a glimpse of the origin address before a gust of wind snatched it away. It matched the coordinates he'd been fixating on, the ones that couldn't possibly be right, the ones that placed them hundreds of miles inland. The mast's crack was almost anticlimactic, a quiet surrender of metal and wood. But it was the sound Mark made, a soft, pleased hum that froze Ben's blood. His friend stood illuminated by a flash of lightning, the doll clutched to his chest, smiling at the destruction as if he'd been expecting it. "We can't go anywhere now," Mark said, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction that Ben had never heard before. "We'll have to stay." He turned, and in the stark flashlight beam his face echoed the doll's painted features with horrifying precision. "Isn't that what you wanted, Ben? To stay here? Isn't that why you tampered with the compass?" Ben backed away, his mind reeling. He hadn't touched the compass, had he? The hours spent poring over charts blurred together, and he couldn't be certain anymore. The rain drummed harder, drowning out his thoughts while Mark's smile grew wider, more porcelain, more wrong. They were lost at sea, but Ben was beginning to fear that being found might be worse. As the storm raged on, he couldn't shake the feeling that something out there had already found them. Something that wore his friend's face and smiled with painted lips, waiting for Ben's resolve to crack, like the mast above them.